Right, Shalom, giving all praise unto Yabashima, Shabashima, Korash. Double honors unto the apostles of Great Millstone. And I honor you brothers that be pushing this truth in sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. And above everybody are coming out here to give you this truth for the grace and mercy of Yahweh. Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai. Ba'ashim Korash. Giving all praise unto Yabashima, Shabashima, Korash. Okay, so this is going to be an in transit video based on this funny caption or GIF or what do you call it? There's a word for it, meme, with this picture right here. It's a funny picture right here, but you know, as funny as it is, you know what they say about humor, right? That there is always an element of truth behind all humor, and this is a classic example of that, where you know, Shaquita right here is throwing the baby like she was Stephen Curry, right from beyond the ark, okay? And that's the reality of what's happened unto the Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, our people, via the Red Hebrew Edomite Esau, okay, and via the Gardenian pact, the pact that he made with the Negro, Hispanic, and Native American woman, predominantly the Negro women. You had the destruction of a lot of Jake men, predominantly Jake men, because that's the target, okay? They ain't worried about the women. The women don't bring back the seed. They don't bring back the promises. But those promises, right, when you go into the book of Romans, the 9th chapter, it speaks about the sons, right? According to the flesh, whose are the fathers, and of whom concerning the flesh, Yahweh Shai HaMashiach came, okay? So, they're not really concerned about the women, but they're certainly concerned about the men within Israel. And since 1973, since Roe versus Wade, which is where these women fought for their right to be 304s, namely for their ability to terminate their pre-basing unborn, actually, for their right to terminate their own unborn. Really, you had a situation where 19 million is the number, the estimation. It's probably more than that, but the estimated number is 19 million, right? Negro, Hispanic, and Native American children. I think it was just black children I searched out. 19 million children have been terminated, and that's a real sadness, okay? That's a real sadness, man. That's a real sadness, okay? When you read about the terrible days of our forefathers, when particular situations played out within ancient Israel, and maybe an enemy came, right, and terminated a whole bunch of people, or you know, you speak about the history that happened when Yahweh Shai was born, and Herod and his minions basically went out there, right, killing off Negro babies because they knew the Messiah was prophesied to come. You know, those are real dark days, man. Those were real sad days. But 1973 is not a long time ago, okay? 1973 is not a long time ago. 1973 is about 50 odd years ago, right? About 50 years ago. And you talk about 19 million, round it up to 20 million. I mean, how many is that? That's about a clip of about 500,000, just shy of 500,000 children, okay? Children, Israelite children, getting terminated on a yearly basis. Those are real dark days. And indeed, the scripture talks about how the last days was going to be dark days, and we are living through those dark days right now. So let's speak about the precepts real quick. First precept that comes to mind is the book of Psalms, the 83rd chapter, and I suppose it's the most precise precept concerning this particular topic. They've said, "Come, let's cut them off from being a nation." But the name of, let me backtrack a little bit, because there's a little bit more detail that we can take off of that particular scripture. Psalms 83 and 3, I believe it's going to be. They have taken crafty counsel, right, against thy people, against thine anointed. They have said, "Come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance," right? And the rest I forget. So craftiness, we see craftiness pursuant to the book of Job. I believe it's Job 5 and 12. Craftiness is associated to the Red Hebrew Edomite Esau. Okay, that craftiness is associated to Esau. Okay, the wicked. How is it crafty? How is it subtle? Which is where you get that word crafty from. How is it subtle? Well, it's subtle when you understand the how. It's easy to say, yeah, this is what's happened, but to say how it's happened, you know, requires a little bit more investigation, understanding, and, you know, and detail. So the details is what? The details is We see the book of Isaiah, the 3rd chapter on the 12th verse. It says, a woman shall compass a man. Let's put it into what that means on a day-to-day term. On a day-to-day term, that means in practice that the women have more rights and liberties within this society as men. Now, we can only read what the scripture says, and we believe what the scripture says. A woman is not supposed to usurp authority over a man, according to the scriptures. Now, we're going to make a movement, right, and go on a YouTube page and start ranting about that. No, we're just simply going to read the scriptures and teach these truth on YouTube and out there on the highways and the byways. But when it comes down to it, the scripture talks about how we're supposed to be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. Yeah, that's the truth. But brother, I ain't punching some broad within my house saying, look, man, you got to do X, Y, and Z. The scripture talks about how that if she's willing to roll with you, because there are women out there that really, they feel that their natural state is to follow a man. And they're really out there looking for a man to lead. That is a case. That is a preference. Contrary to what this world will have you believe. That is a preference for some women. So if a woman don't really want to go the way you want her to go to, that's fine. You know, the scripture talks about how that you're supposed to, you know, basically let her go. And Lord's will, you find a better situation. But sometimes being on your own is going to be a better situation, okay? You ain't got as much distractions. And we see, according to the scriptures, you know, really the distractions is not it. And you know, they might say, oh, that's some incel talk. But let's really look at the situation of the men of the Lord. What situation did, and I'm talking about the apostles. When the Lord was on the scene and the apostles followed after Yahweh Shai, the scripture talks about how they left businesses, they left their families, they left a lot of things behind, okay? The men of the Lord left a lot of things behind. So they was in a real focused type of a mind. Now we got the benefit of having the internet and having all of these digital tools at our disposal. It's a little bit easier to so-called have a family. And I do mean so-called because you really don't have a family. That's the devil's family right there. And you know, you might find out what I mean by that when them demons capture your woman for about 2 days. You're like, what the fuck did I even speak to this person for? Okay? The same thing goes for your kids. You can't really discipline your kids and raise them how you want to raise them in this society. We're in hell. But I say all of that to say this, right? I say all of that to say this. They got more rights than you. And this is where it goes back to the book of Psalms, the 83rd chapter. They got more rights than you. They got more power than you. But that was all via the subtlety of the wicked. Because the wicked within his mind, right, sought out many wicked inventions, right? The liberty that they've given to these women pretty much put you at odds with your woman. Because here it is, you're really trying to, right, push a doctrine of, you know, of sobriety, but they're drunk enough of the juice of the ready Edomite Esau, and they got the liberty to really go in there, man. She wants to sleep with somebody at work and bring home a baby that's not yours and pretend like it's yours for 18 years. Well, that's a reality that you might have to go through. That's a hell, but that's a reality that you might have to go through. And this is where we're living right now within the society. So that's the crafty counsel of the wicked right there. Where they've said to the woman, look, man, you can do what you want. You can do and say what you want whenever you want. That's the crafty counsel of the wicked. And via that, right, the liberation of sexuality out here, which, you know, you're seeing a lot of these women, they're depressed and bugged out because you've been sold a lie, okay? It's natural to want to desire a family and raise a family in a nuclear family where, the man might have resources, he might have another wife or whatever. But really for the woman, it's unnatural to have all of these sperm swimming within your womb. That's a very unnatural state for a woman to have. And that's why a lot of you women be bugged out and having demons. But to bring it back to the point of the story with Shaquita here, right? Free throwing, right? I don't want to use Tyrone, maybe a brother's called Tyrone, but free throwing a Negro baby into the trash can. That's really the outcome, right? And the desired outcome of the chaos that Esau has created via the crafty counsel. All of those things, those points that we just spoken about, the liberation, she shall usurp authority over you. This is the result that it has. Okay, irresponsibility. Here it is you participating in all the baby making, but when it comes to actually looking after your children, man, these women ain't concerned about that, man. Even the ones that do keep, they're interested in going out, shaking their tail feather, so to speak, and being freaks out here. But that's all good, okay? Judgment's coming. And that's why the scripture says, and I'll end it off on this particular scripture, she that is my enemy shall see it, when she shall see me being uplifted. I haven't really read that scripture in a little while, I forget the wording, but that's Micah Micah 7 and 10, I think it is, or is it 2 and 10? No, 2 and 10 is the right the part. So it's Micah 7 and 10, I believe it is. Right? It speaks about how that she that is my enemy shall see it. Right? And she shall be trodden down as the mire in the streets because of these particular actions there. And again, like I said, I'll quote that number that they estimated. It's about 19 million Negro babies that's been terminated since Roe versus Wade. It's a damn shame, bro. But this is where we are. Okay? We need Yahweh Shai. Without my say, praise unto Yahweh Shai, Bashim Koha Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles of great millstone and the honest brothers that be pushing this truth in sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom.